Hello, and welcome to Public Pictures Theater, where we will be watching the 1946 musical Till the Clouds Roll by Robert Walker, Lucille Bremer, and Van Heflin.
When Jerome Kern learned that there was going to be a movie made about his life, he was nervous and told MGM Studios that it would be difficult to make because he thought it would be too boring for viewers. So the scriptwriters invented the Hessler family.
When the film's 29th anniversary arrived, it was thrust into the public domain after MGM failed to renew its copyright.
During the Who segment, Judy Garland and the chorus moving down the staircase was controlled by a slide that was hydraulically controlled. The problem with it was that instead of coming to a smooth stop, it stopped abruptly. There was a quick cut so the viewers won't notice, but keep your eyes open for it.
During the segment for Sunny, Garland was doubled by a professional rider when the circus arrived on set. The camera was far away for the rest of the sequence, so the audience couldn't tell that it's not Garland herself on the horse.
Without further ado, we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy Richard Wolff's Till the Clouds Roll By.
Welcome back to Public Pictures Theater. I'm Dr. Jim Lenze, and I'm here with Alyssa, Candace, and Jake, who likes the Star Wars prequels, to talk about Richard Wolff's Till the Clouds Roll By. So let's get started talking about this movie. And did you have a favorite musical segment or a favorite song in general?
I like Lena Horne's part.
Lena Horne is always a win.
Mm-hmm.
Lena Horne is awesome. What did you think of Lena Horne? Did you catch Lena Horne?
I don't know if I did or not.
Lena Horne was a famous African-American actress who starred in many musicals early on in her career. She was also a civil rights pioneer, and she was featured very prominently, briefly but prominently in the Showboat sequence at the beginning. And you liked her. You liked Lena Horne.
Yeah, I think she was definitely one of the better voices, in my opinion.
Yeah, she definitely was. I mean, you've got Judy Garland in this movie, and did you catch Mrs. Potts?
Yes, I did. She was in the swings.
Angela Lansbury in the swings singing Mrs. Potts. But there were some great singers in this movie.
There was.
But yeah, I agree with you. Lena Horne could have carried the entire film.
Exactly.
Yeah. What was your favorite music song? What was your favorite song, Jake?
Oh boy, my favorite song.
Keeping in mind that Jake likes the Star Wars prequels.
Should I even give my opinion? You're just gonna... Okay, favorite song, honestly, I thought they were all good. I know that's a dumb answer, but I don't know if I have a favorite out of all of them because they were all just so well done.
Alyssa, what did you think?
Well, I liked the swings. I mean, it felt like a good start. It showed Kern's ability to pull something out of the water, and it just encapsulated that very well.
And it is fun to see.
Yeah, it really
Angela
is.
Lansbury, very young, and singing her heart out, and she had a wonderful career from the beginning, and just a great star. So this film had a lot of great stars. So what did you think of this style of telling the audience a story about a person's life, as opposed to some of the biographic films we see today?
Well, it wasn't true.
On liberties.
Like, whenever I watched it, the very beginning, they give this big tribute, like, oh, we just want to celebrate the life of Kern, and thank you for the music. And you find out that the Hess family is totally made up. And to me, they're kind of the reason why he was such a great character and a great person, and quite frankly, he owed a lot to his mentor, Mr. Hearst, and he didn't even exist. So I was really disappointed by that.
What did you think?
I mean, that's kind of devastating for me to hear. It's just why did he make all that great music? What was the real reason? Now I want to know.
So what do you do if you want to make a film about a great composer, a person who had a tremendous impact on musical theater in the 20th century, and some of the greatest musicals that have ever hit Broadway, and yet his life is not dramatic enough to make a film?
Well, I guess you make stuff up then.
You make stuff up, which is apparently what they decided to do, was just to make up a story. Can you think of another way to do the film other than maybe not doing it as a story?
Well, I think it does work as a story, though. You're able to see, what happened to Kern and how he lived his life. And it was a bit just of a distraction with the Hessler family added in, but it made it all the more, he acted a lot more human in that aspect instead of just like a Wikipedia page.
Yeah,
Well,
I think if sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think that like if they would have done it like a more traditional documentary where they have a narrator talking about things and then they show the musical numbers, I think it would have been a lot more boring. I think the audience wouldn't have paid as much attention if there wasn't any kind of like emotional connection or backstory to why he did what he did. So I can understand why they did it. But if you're seeing this film like I did, and I didn't know anything about this guy, I'm thinking like, oh, he knew these people and it was all nice. It's like, oh, they didn't exist, and then I feel all sad afterwards.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I think they had the right idea initially. You know, in the beginning of the film, you are kind of immersed in his play, and then you kind of see the audience. I think that was a really good angle to take that at. But then they had to add all the fake dramatization and elaborate on that, and that kind of, you know, if they would have maybe added in more about him working on his plays with the actors, getting more set up in the industry, especially in Broadway, I think it would have garnered more positive reviews, because even the critics were like, why the heck would you do that? Like, why?
One of my favorite scenes is early on in the film when he's with Hessler, and it's all fake, but they're at the piano with Sally playing the song, and Hessler is saying, no, don't start with the brass. Save the brass for the finish. Bring in clarinet. There we add flute, and we could hear the instruments being added.
Yeah.
And he was saying to Kern, can you hear it? Can you hear it? And he was like, yes. I thought, what a wonderful way to film the development of a song, and how an arranger comes in and helps the composer to develop the song. And I thought, wow, this is really powerful, and I'm looking forward to this film. But there weren't a lot of moments like that through the rest of the film.
No, it kind of dropped off after that.
Right.
But it was a good idea. It was very creative.
How were these developed?
Yeah.
How were these shows developed? And I think, so the next question we have is, how would you adapt this today? And I think what I'd like to see is, how were the songs written? How did he, what were his inspirations for the songs? How did he hear about, now I'm wondering, did Hammerstein really show him Showboat, or did somebody else do it? Or did you catch that was Oscar Hammerstein of Rodgers and Hammerstein?
No, I didn't.
Well, it took me a minute to decipher it because I took a theater class and we learned about Showboat, but it took me a minute to like realize that that's Hammerstein or not.
The Hammerstein, and many, many great musicals will come from Rodgers and Hammerstein. So, if we were going to make our new film, who would you cast as Kern today?
Oh boy, that's a tough question, but
He's got age.
yeah.
I honestly don't know. I just thought for the time period that I would have actually switched Judy Garland and Lucille Bremel, I believe. I think I would have switched their roles. I think I would have made Lucille Bremel, Sally, not Sally. The other lady in Broadway.
Okay.
Totally botched that up, but as for modern times, I don't know.
I'm not sure either, but I felt like Judy Garland was just there just to be Judy Garland. So I would just pick an actress out of a hat that can sing. I would just be like, oh, look at this. Anne Hathaway, let's do her.
Anne Hathaway. Okay. So I'm thinking of a bold choice too. For Kern, I would cast Jennifer Lawrence. Since we're not going to go with the truth in any way, shape, or form, let's just have Kern be a woman, and we'll completely turn this thing over. So at the beginning of the film, we see a magnificent rendition of Old Man River, which is one of Kern's greatest songs. And I'm not sure, how many of you have seen Showboat?
I did not.
Oh,
I wish I could.
I wish it was in the public domain, because then we could show it on Public Pictures Theater. But Showboat is worth your watch. Now, it has all of the social issues of the day. It has a very stereotypical cast, and it has racial overtones, and there are certainly things that are wrong with the film and with the play. But the music really, really holds up. It's a great, great musical. So let me ask you, what did you think of Frank Sinatra being brought in at the end to sing Old Man River? And did you catch why they brought Frank Sinatra in? This is very early in Frank Sinatra's career.
Yeah.
He's not done a lot of Broadway. He's not done a lot of films at this point. Why do you think they brought him in?
He was really young, and you know, he was a stud, you know, just starting out, but it was so random. And as we mentioned earlier, you mentioned about this will bring all the girls into the theater. But for me, I thought it was just so random because I initially thought Frank Sinatra was the cabbie in the beginning. But, you know, his facial features are very similar, but he was like a little heavier.
This is a very thin Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, very thin. And the entire film, I was actually watching for him because I'm like, oh, Frank Sinatra's in this. That's kind of interesting, you know, because you don't hear as much about his acting versus his singing. And then there he is, just at the very end of the film.
Yeah, and Frank did go on to have quite an acting career, and it was in some great films. The Manchurian Candidate and From Here to Eternity. So I mean, he's in some big films, but this is very early on, and he's brought in because he's a pop star, and it would get young people to go to the movie to see it. And I'm not sure if that worked. This film made money, but because they had packed it so full of stars, it was an expensive film to make.
Yeah.
And it was plagued with production problems and delays. And so, although it did make millions, which at the time was stunning, today we think if a film makes $1 million, it's a bomb. And that back then, it was a big success. But it actually only profited about $700,000. So at the end, the film barely broke even.
It was very modest, yeah.
Very, very
and
modest.
considering all of the sets and costumes and all of the big names that you just mentioned, I can only imagine how expensive it was for the day. Because even at the end, when they're featuring Lucille Bremlin, Frank Sinatra,
Van
and
Johnson.
and a couple others from the very beginning, I just thought that set was so, not over the top, but it was so elaborate and elegant, because you see the camera backing away from the set, and it's like this, I thought it was kind of like very sci-fi for the day, very like clouds and a white staircase, and I just
like heaven.
and
it had that big musical production feel.
exactly, and it was very, I could have imagined how expensive even just having that scene was.
Well, just the choreography alone, you know, if you screwed up, you had to do it all over again, and they did it all so well, so many times over.
Yeah.
Another actress I think it's interesting to point out very quickly was Dinah Shore, which I don't know if any of you remember Dinah Shore, but the morning talk show, Ellen, DeGeneres, Oprah, all of that comes from Dinah Shore. Dinah Shore had the Dinah Shore Show. And it was the first morning talk show where a TV star, a former movie star, sat and just talked to people about what was going on in Hollywood, what was going on in music. And she was featured prominently in at least 2 songs in the film. There was an amazing plethora of major stars in this film, which made it, if nothing else, a joy to watch. That's all the time that we have for Public Pictures Theater. I would like to thank Candace, Alyssa, and Jake for joining me tonight. I'm Dr. Jim Lenze, and from all of us at IUP TV, have a good night.